about time we made a record, yeah?
Well, I've got good news. We're making one.
And it's a really special album celebrating one of the world's most important jazz icons.
And she's from right here in Spokane.
She's the best jazz singer of the swing era that you've probably never heard of.
She started to sing, and her theme was Rocking Chair.
Oh, rocking chair got me.
And she had a tiny little voice, and she sounded like, I don't know, sort of a magical girl.
Fetch me that gin sun.
I mean, you built up your own illusion in radio, you know? So I listened to her, and I thought, gosh, she's wonderful, and then we'd buy all her records.
She was called one of the greatest jazz singers, a legend in her own time.
And now the other guys that she sang, Arlen and Carmichael and Willett, she sang those because they were absolutely the best jazz composers writing at that time, and she recognized that. I think she was very perceptive and ahead of her time musically.
She was born in the little town of Tico, Washington, near De Smet, Idaho, on the Coeur d'Alene Reservation. Her mother, Josephine, my grandma Josie, was a member of the Coeur d'Alene tribe and a gifted pianist.
When she was about 12, her family moved to nearby Spokane, where she started performing at the age of 19 at Charlie Dale's Speakeasy as a singing comedienne. By the mid-1920s, she was performing as a table singer in Hollywood. In 1929, she was discovered by Paul Whiteman.
She became the very first female singer ever hired to be a regular singer with a band. And not just any old band, but this was Paul Whiteman's orchestra, which was the foremost touring broadcasting orchestra in the country.
Songs she recorded hit number 1 on the music charts 3 times, with dozens of other hits throughout the 1930s and 40s.
There were several weeks in the 1937, 1938 where 4 of the top 10 songs were by people from Spokane.
She sang at the very first Esquire Jazz Concert in New York City at Carnegie Hall in 1945. She finished second to Billie Holiday that year, and then she won the award, beating out Billie Holiday in 1946.
Her name is Mildred Bailey, and she's my Aunt Millie.
Hey everybody, we're the Zonky Jazz Band.
And I'm the band leader, Garen Hertel. And we're a working jazz band from right here in Spokane, Washington, Mildred's hometown. We'd love to have your support as we celebrate Mildred Bailey with a new Zonky Jazz Band album dedicated to preserving her legacy. You can find our project on GoFundMe. This beautiful park in the center of town used to be a train yard when Mildred lived here. So this may have been where Mildred said her last goodbye to Spokane on her way to making it a big time.
And here's your rockin' chair lady, Mildred Bailey.
From 16 to 20 years old, that's the only thing I listened to was Mildred Bailey.
Tony Bennett had every one of Mildred Bailey's records practically, and Rosemary Clooney had spent lots of time listening to Mildred Bailey on the radio.
We all know that Mildred Bailey was very influential as a jazz vocalist. What really is not known is that she credits the Indian songs of her youth as shaping her voice. She was swinging before she knew what swing was.
Garen and I appeared in the 2017 Resolution Pictures documentary film, Rumble, The Indians Who Rocked the World, which featured a vignette on Mildred Bailey's life and her contributions to the world of music.
I don't know whether this music compares with jazz or the classics, but I do know that it offers a young singer a remarkable background and training. It takes a squeaky soprano and straightens out all the clinkers that made it squeak. It removes the bass boom from the contralto's voice, this Indian singing does, because you have to sing a lot of notes to get by, and you've got to cover an awful range. Mildred Bailey.
Her voice and style influenced the whole world of jazz, including Bing Crosby,
Maybe I'd better pick up the thread of the story.
the most recorded voice in history, who palled around with her brother, Al Rinker, in Spokane.
Their household was just awash in music all the time. There was probably an osmosis factor here, where she was just soaking all of these different things in.
By the way, this is Mildred's house. This is where Mildred lived. But you know, it's a private residence, not a museum, so don't come by asking for a tour. Mildred's mom threw a surprise party for her here when she was about 14, which made the society pages in the Spokane newspapers.
Don't cry. Oh, honey, please don't be that way. Clouds in the sky should never make you feel that way.
The Zonky Jazz Band is recording Mildred Bailey's best dance songs, many of which she performed with her husband, Red Norvo, back when they were known as Mr. and Mrs. Swing. This is the Davenport Hotel, which was built right about the time that Mildred and her family moved to Spokane. Mildred likely shared a dance in the Georgian Room with Larry Crosby, Bing Crosby's older brother. Unfortunately, the Georgian Room is gone today, but the Zonky Jazz Band still plays an occasional dance here at the hotel.
Step aside, jump jumps here, step aside, jump jumps here, a new tempo you all should know. Step aside, jump jumps here, jump with pride, jump jumps here, learn to ride, jump jumps here, you're on your feet, get off the beat. Step aside, jump jumps here, when you next hear them jam bands playing, they'll be jump jump jumping instead. Jitterbugs are saying, you jump jump from your toes and then you knock with your head. Step aside, jump jumps here, step aside, jump jumps here, let's cheer today, jumps on its way. Step aside, jump jumps here.
By the way, this is North Central High School. This is where Mildred's brothers went to school. It was rebuilt in the 1980s, and I went here too. We're joined on the album by Mildred's niece, Julia Rinker. You've likely heard her voice countless times because she sang the Three's Company theme song.
Come and knock on our door.
Come and knock on our door.
We've been waiting for you.
We've been waiting for you.
Where the kisses
She also appeared on television on The Dean Martin Show.
And here's Julie Rinker. Tell them how you started, Julie.
I decided to follow in my father's footsteps.
Oh, I know him. You see, Julie's father is Al Rinker, and Al was one of the original rhythm boys years ago with the Paul Whiteman Orchestra. And he sang with another guy, you know his name.
Bing Crosby?
Bing Crisper. That's it, yeah. Yeah, I know old Bong real good.
Frank Sinatra came up to me during the recording of his Trilogy album in the 80s, sharing how much my aunt's style influenced his own. He specifically mentioned how she taught him how to marry or integrate lyrics with the beat and rhythm of the song. Now that was a special, one-of-a-kind moment in my musical life and career.
About half our arrangements are written by arranger and guitarist Jake Sanders, who plays and arranges for Naomi and her Handsome Devils, one of the most popular bands on the international swing dancing scene.
I first heard Mildred Bailey's music many years ago and was immediately struck, not only by the tone of her voice, but her effortless delivery. Years later, revisiting the music and studying it in more depth, Mildred Bailey's all the more impressive, and I'm equally impressed by the arrangement she's singing over. Of course, the orchestrators and arrangers of that time were second to none, and it's been a great challenge and pleasure to try to write arrangements that not only reflect the style of what they were doing, but adds a little bit of my own touch as well.
And now, with this fantastic lineup of Spokane musicians and special guests from afar, the Zonky Jazz Band and their esteemed guests would love to bring you a new album of music that celebrates Mildred Bailey, her singing, her humor, and her perfect sense of swing.
It's important to do this album now in order to keep Mildred Bailey and her unique jazz pioneering legacy alive for generations to come.
please support Zonky Jazz Band's debut album, Home, a swingin' tribute to Mildred Bailey, on GoFundMe today.
It's very clear our love is here to stay, not for a year, but